Welcome everybody back after some technical difficulties here to the Salt Mine Twitch channel as we continue coverage of the Aegis Champions League Summer Split here, and we are looking to crown another playoff team and bring the field into 16. And the way it's looking, I believe a Pool 4 team,
Yep.
Pool 4 in Deathmark Esports are one game away from defying their restricted selection committee spot and making the playoffs. Quacks, and it's hard to not be rooting for them after the performance they put up in game one.
Yeah, and this really, I think, redefines the ceiling a lot of people had for DME going into the ACL. I think a lot of people have kind of that floor ceiling sort of barrier that you can sort of put that sort of proverbial box that a lot of teams fit into in terms of where their skill can max out and where it can minimize. And I feel like they just raised the ceiling significantly, being able to take a game off of Whole Milk. This is a team that I think a lot of people had a preset expectation of after that previous open qualifier where they got 0-2'd by that Gravity team, saying, all right, Gravity, probably one of like the lowest best teams, right? Sort of like the worst of the best. In a way, DME not really being able to shoot above those types of teams. And I certainly feel like Whole Milk definitely qualify into that category that Gravity did in that open qualifier. So to see that improvement in real time is super exciting, Slayer. And particularly, gotta shout out Tommy, gotta shout out Verdict. I think that top side really showed improvement from the last time we saw these guys on the Aegis-esque style streams.
Yeah, and even Pew Pew, right, on this Varus that
Yeah.
you were being a bit critical of because there's always the on-hit lethality conversation that you have, and we felt like with the Ziggs, it's like, oh, you're going on-hit? That kind of, takes away a bit of identity. No, he goes, nearly deathless in this game, is really able to get as many autos down. It was just a huge step up performance from a lot of these DME players. And well, now we kind of have to put a bit of that in the wayside, put that in the rearview mirror, as game one will now just represent, well, not just the 1-0 lead here for Deathmark Napoléon, but as you can see above us, the 10 champions that also get taken away from game one. So let's see, Quacks, how that warps our bands as we start on the same sides for game two.
And DME immediately going to open up with a Jace ban, paying some respect over to Manui. We mentioned it a little bit while we were in game number one, Slayer, but there are a lot of questions about Manui as a player now, right? Obviously, not returning to the NACL after a really good performance on support, throwing in that lane swap from being an 80 carry back in 2024. I think did a really good job on that conviction squad at being able to bind them together and push them forward to top three. Now swapping back over to top side. And, we haven't checked in on any of the Whole Milk players for a little bit, but when we streamed them last time, Slayer, Drexer, who I think has been a very loquacious player on the side of Whole Milk, had a lot of positive stuff to say about Manui in terms of his leadership qualities that kind of transcend the laning phase, transcend the late game, and just being able to rally the team together. And so the interest really lies in how is he going to be able to do that as a top laner, a role that is notoriously on an island and doesn't necessarily interact with the larger team as a whole, compared to things like support and 80 carry. So I'm really interested to see what kind of attention they give him this game to be able to rally the team back from this 0-1 start and potentially get this reverse sweep done on the series.
Where that rally really starts for me here for Whole Milk's draft is maybe the simple switch of let's try and get Levitate a champion he likes a bit more, because
Maybe,
last time,
yeah.
I mean, not saying he's a bad Jhin player.
We did not like the Jhin.
We did not like the Jhin. All right, here we go. Yeah, so lock
there
in
we
Yunar
go.
B1. Yeah, I was
All
also
right.
going to say he eats 4 bans in the first draft. This time he gets another 2. They're not going to have to watch his champ pool get pinched any further. Yunar coming through.
So I gotta ask you as the 80 carry expert, what do you actually think of this champion? I have my own reserved opinions on Yunara. What are your thoughts on this character's current power level? Because it's being played in the LPL, right? I believe you casted a pentakill with this champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Rafa did. Yeah, no,
Rafa did.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, the first Yunar pentakill was Gala on IG. I think this champion is a little bit boring, because it really feels like you're just a stat check champion. If in the sense that Yunara's damage profile at 3 items is disgusting. When she transcends, she does a bunch of damage, she gets a bunch of move speed and dash ability. But if you lock down Yunara, You have to protect Yunara, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, Yunara needs safety nets, or she becomes incredibly invaluable to a lot of these compositions. So Whole Milk, in this scenario, Quacks, I want them to draft enough protections to avoid, like we can already see, one, an Ash Arrow coming for Levitate's head, and now an Mbessa. So I already think Deathmark are doing a good job saying, all right, you're going to play the Yunara comp, we're going to make it your problem. Funnily enough, again, as we keep drawing back to the LPL last night, I did watch IG try and play this Yunara comp once again. They basically funneled everything into protecting the Yunara, and BLG on the other side matched it by quite literally picking an Mbessa Vi that, just ults on top of Yunara's head with the Vi, public execution. There's just nothing Yunara could do. So, hey, let's see if Deathmark take that page out of that.
That sounds a little bit rough for any AD carry player. I'm sure that sends shivers down your spine, Slayer, as we are going to see Whole Milk slam down the Wukong blind. Interesting, I think, takeaway here, as Trundle is notoriously the worst matchup for Wukong. Is, you have that stone skin, you have the ability to stack armor, and Trundle just kind of steals that all away. So really bad matchup for him, gated away by Fearless, and now I think Napoléon probably have a significantly less answers. Obviously, Xin Zhao is still a champion that is open and available, and it's an answer that also I think really pairs up with that Mbessa. So again, going back to that point of power on Deathmark Napoléon, that being the top side, could work out if they want to go for that. But Whole Milk's still probably just going to throw down a mid laner here to go with the Wukong. It will be the Orianna, as looking at the champion pools, this actually has been played by Fimini once, so he isn't completely unfamiliar with it, but it certainly isn't a Fimini champion. I feel like you always think of things like the Victor when you picture him. Orianna, not necessarily the most prominent character for this player.
You want to know what's hilarious, Quacks?
What's
right
up?
Now, this Whole Milk draft is identical, not in the pick order, but is identical to the Yunara draft that I just brought up. Sorry. This, all right, here we go. The Shyvana's coming through. Okay, so we're getting verdict back on a carry champ.
This is, I would love to, dispel the jungle knowledge that I have built up in my 6 years of maining the role, Slayer. No idea how this matchup actually pans out. I know that right now, the prominent build, I believe the most popular build for Shyvana is like Riftmaker Shojin, right? You go a little bit of that hybridized style, but given that, things like the Sundered Sky are really, really strong and probably do function really well with the Shyvana being able to weave in those empowered Q autos, I think we might see a bit more of a tanky frontline-esque style, at least something that can back up this Mbessa when they public execution. So Deathmark Napoléon are going straight for an engage comp, and I think this is going to be setting up for a very interesting game, as Whole Milk are relatively, they're doing relatively the same thing. They are looking to go for the Orianna Shockwave combination, engage sort of play style. So both of these teams, they're going to be button heads all game in those team fights, and that is the most exciting part of the game.
I'm with you. I'm excited for Verdict to lean into that jack of all trades, rune-esque build with the Shoju, the Riftmaker. That's partly why Shyvana is so disgusting, is using that rune choice. However, whenever I see an Mbessa, I immediately want to see reliable CC setup for that public execution. One of the easiest ults to kind of whiff in the game, right? The hitbox is very slender. And usually you need that to come through for the jungle. Shyvana is not providing any of that. That is not what Shyvana does. So right now, all DME have is an Ash Arrow, which again, if it hits, is good, but I don't like it when we're relying on skill shots to set up Mbessa ultimates. There are easier ways to do that. So as we go into the second ban phase, with mid lane being the target ban from Whole Milk, I would like to see, either in support or even the mid lane, someone set up for this Mbessa to get to that Yunara, to get to that Orianna. And a Galio,
that's a good answer.
Does somewhat fix it. It's better.
I like this, but I also think that the Galio might not necessarily be as proactive as we like necessarily. When we see Galio, we picture obviously that hero's entrance being able to back up some aggressive plays from an aggressive jungler. Shyvana isn't really an aggressive jungler, so I do think we're going to be, using that ultimate in a little bit more of a defensive measure, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but will stall out Deathmark Napoleon's ability to, I think, accelerate this game right from the get-go and be a little bit more reliant on that scaling aspect, which is dangerous when, like you said, Slayer, you're mentioning the Yunara 3 items. Now it's the Jax 3 items, along with that Orianna. This is setting up to be a very late-game proficient team from Whole Milk, and I think Deathmark Napoleon aren't really doing anything with their own draft to challenge it going in that direction.
Love this Renata angle, too. The Galio, Shyvana, and Bessa really struggle into this threat of this ultimate, right? So I think Whole Milk have bounced back with a pretty proficient draft of their own. They've got their own engage tools. They've got the ability to kind of peel off for this Yunara.
You go like Melio here? I think Melio has a lot of value.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, the Ashe priority is really weird.
Ooh.
Okay, we're just going Blitzcrank. All right, hey.
I don't know about that.
I respect it, though. They're just going to try and make Yunara's lane unplayable. Will it work? You got to see if these hooks land.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big tell for the side of DME is all about this Shyvana, right? This top side, again, is going to be the main focus of the game. Anytime you see an Ashe, you're expecting the action to coast away from that champion. Ashe is very rarely seen as a strong side ADC. And so I do think that'll mean Deathmark playing toward, Verdict, making sure that he is getting all of that farm, making sure he's getting those dragons as well to lower the cooldown of that ultimate and continue the progressiveness of those fighting timers for Deathmark Napoleon. On the other side, though, Esports Whole Milk have, I would honestly consider this a triple threat comp. I think that Jax, Orianna, and Yunara are all going to be really strong around that 25 to 30 minute mark when they start to get those 3 to 4 items. Should be really, really easy for them to just group up and take the fight to Deathmark Napoleon in 5v5s.
Let's take our attention towards the Rift here, Quacks, to see how this game 2 plays out. Again, important to remind everybody at home, loser of this matchup becomes 1 game away from elimination in the ACL early before playoffs. The winner moves on as a higher-seeded squad towards postseason berth. And that right now is DME and level 1 Clown Fiesta. You knew it was coming with a Blitzcrank. Luckily, Cryogen's going to spot the whole brigade
Flash it
through, but Flash Hook is a threat, and Potato is not going to commit to that point, so they'll have to now usher themselves back out. Without that hookup, actually, yeah, I kind of like this turn from Whole Milk, but we knew he was not going to flash already to burn a Counter-Strike stun, so...
I got a little bit concerned that he actually was going to do that, but he ends up not falling into that trap, but it seems like DME are... possibly not finished with just trying to harass Whole Milk in their own jungle. They're going to end it off with a ward and, Whole Milk not actually able to reciprocate that pressure. They don't get a ward themselves, so they will be just guessing where Verdict is actually going to be starting. And I feel like on a full clear champion like Shyvana, you need to know where Verdict is pathing and what direction he's going in terms of this jungle proficiency and this tempo that he's going to be trying to keep up until he hits that level 6. So it's a granular advantage for Deathmark Napoleon, but it is one that could have some pernicious effects later down the line.
We'll have to see. Let's get our lane assignments adjusted in. We're going to start testing the Whole Milk bottom lane on how well they can dance around this Blitzcrank threat. I already like what they're doing level 1. Your minions are your best friend. You stand in them, they're getting hooked, you're not. So that kind of sets them up for decent priority. But here's where the worries already start here for me if you're DME, right? Quack. You're committing to the Shyvana power farming. All right, guys, play slow, but I do really feel like there are lanes where they either want someone to get somebody ahead, which is Tommy, or try and slow an enemy down, which is Levitate. And I don't think they're in position ever to really do that until the Shyvana gets level 6.
No, they have a ton of lockdown. Like the CC profile, I think on Deathmark Napoleon's comp is really, really good, but they don't have the damage, I feel, to really execute on that Slayer. Totally agree with you. I think that the big tell is going to be just holding off, making sure you can kind of just, stalemate your lane until Shyvana hits level 6 and is able to be really proactive around that map. Not only the Shyvana level 6 being a big breakpoint for Deathmark Napoleon, but also obviously Zephrot with the Galio. That is a big breakpoint to have once you hit level 6 and have that hero's entrance available to be able to possibly answer any sort of Drexer moves or just aggressive plays that might be made on either side of the map. Again, I think it's really just going to be Zephrot needing to be more proactive and aggressive with his ultimate once Verdict has the opportunity to really take the fight to this Wukong.
As we continue talking about Verdict and the Shyvana, do you see any sort of change up in the clear here from Verdict with how much more valuable Dragon is with Shyvana in the game?
I feel like Whole Milk should just be trying to rush down those Drakes as much as possible. I mean, we're already seeing a ton of push come out here by Levitate and Cryogen. A ton of priority is being given over on this bot side to Whole Milk, so much so that we might be looking for a dive here at 3.5 minutes in.
Wow. Okay, yeah, they're trying to take this way away from Pew Pew. Does flash away from the Wukong. Turn aggro picked up here by Cryogen, and he should drop, but the bailout is going to save him. Well timed there, and they're getting first blood over towards Levitate with how big of a wave they had. They might look for the redive, but Levitate takes aggro, and Admiral Potato is going to knock him down and take a second with him.
Oh my
God! Cryogen, why? Oh, that's Pizza Warfare, and now 5 minutes getting chased down. He still has his flash he wants to hang on to. He wants to go after Zephyrot. He is going to flash for it, and he's going to get the trade, but Verdict gets the kill back. What just happened?
Whole Milk overplay their hand on the dive, and they get the initial kill onto Pew Pew, but they greed for more, and they get punished. Not only, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be the end of the world if Admiral Potato got all 3 of those kills, but the thing is, Pew Pew got a kill on that dive. That is 1/2 Ashe. So at the end of the day, both ADCs walk away with gold of their own, and the wave is going to get picked up by the Ashe, which means he should be in a decent position. It's a disaster from Whole Milk, and the shenanigans are already starting, Slayer.
They could have just walked away, Quacks. They got the first blood. They got it on the Levitate. That wave was dropping for Pew Pew, and they just were greedy. Their greed has been punished, and now it is really allowed for this DME team to kind of get back into a more comfortable position. But where my eyes gravitate towards is this Dragon that has spawned on that bot side, and Verdict on his clear path is nowhere in position to kind of go for this. It's more Draxer's first turn. But I'm curious how much Deathmark Napoléon really want to get the Shyvana passive going.
Yep, he is going to go for a reset, but you can see Drexer spotted on the bot side. So I think DME at least have an idea that, you know, this Dragon does want to be started up by Whole Milk. Fimini as well, just unlocking that shockwave. Zephyrot still does not have that hero's entrance. So I think leveraging that level 6, doing that, and also leveraging just the prio you've had in bot lane all game. This is what we were talking about with Levitate and Cryogen. They don't necessarily need to be super aggressive. They just need to shove in this Ashe and this Blitzcrank and make it difficult for them to move. But that's not going to stop Admiral Potato from, you know, hanging around here a little bit and saying hello to the Wukong.
Yeah, I mean, Verdict's right here as well. They're in the Drake pit as we watch 5 minutes.
What's going on with the Drake pit
here from Zephyrot? Does have the shockwave if he wants to use it. He's going to look for it to go for the solo kill, but Zephyrot is just tanky enough, and the bottom lane swinging over.
Don't flash for it.
Draxer this Dragon.
Oh my God,
it's stolen! Verdict steals it away, and it's like a drive-by robbery as he gets another edge on Draxer.
It's divine intervention at this point. 3-man dive gone wrong. Dragon stolen. You know, maybe you haven't necessarily been super behind. Oh, God dang.
The handshake, it doesn't cancel the hook, so Cryogen goes under the turret. Oh, no. Blitzdiff! Yeah, he hits him with the emote.
It's a fiasco, Slayer. It's a fiasco. Every day's a banger in the ACL. Have you missed it? I've missed it.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know what? After what I would have had to watch at the waking hours of the day versus this, I would definitely take this right now.
Yup.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Draxer wants his revenge. Transcendence has been popped here for Levitate. Yeah, Pew's just dead. This was way too far up. DME are starting to get a bit greedy here as well. So, despite all the shenanigans, Levitate is now 2-1 on and up a significant amount of CS. And he is just such the big win con with this Yunara pick. So, that's big for Whole Milk.
Oh, but look at the top side. I mean, Verdict is going to get spotted trying to steal away this blue buff. Manui, I don't know if he necessarily wins this. All he has is god dang, what is the new name for Ninja Tabbies? Yeah, Steel Caps. So isn't really necessarily rocking in the damage department, so won't actually look for an aggressive trade onto Verdict. That just means Verdict is able to chill around this top side a little bit longer. Also has that deep ward down, so will get eyes on where Drexer is going on this Wukong. I mean, DME, they're
How-
respawning. They're a little bit later in tempo, but they should be fighting for these grubs, Slayer.
Am I missing? How are we in the same scenario for Draxer where this? How about if
I don't know.
Does Verdict have right now?
I honestly feel like it's a little bit more understandable in a matchup like this, where Shyvana is a power farmer and Wukong needs to be proactive in the early game. But like, yeah, last game was a big old fat question mark for me, as well as now Drexler is completely isolated and there's still 2 available. So you're not actually going to be getting those grubs. You don't get the credit.
Yeah, he fakes the trickster and then still has to flash out of the pit, and there's no real way for him to get back in here. Look for a fight maybe here onto Tommy. There's the Cyclone pop. The hero's interest.
He's going really deep.
Draxler is flashless. Draxler is cut off from the rest of life support that is Whole Milk, and that's an easy kill for Zephyros to pick up alongside those 2 grubs.
Yeah, I mean, Drexler just goes way too deep on the engage with the Wukong, doesn't have his team around him, so just instantly dies. Had to use that flash earlier to get on the other side of the wall because he didn't have Trickster. Not only that, it's going to be the grubs given over to DME, so they have credit for both objectives taken on the map so far. Slayer, a monopoly over to red side, putting them closer and closer to those feats. They got the ones of warfare because of that failed dive, so all they need is 1 more objective, and the feats of strength are actually just DMEs, you know, at around 10 minutes.
I do like this move from Whole Milk, though, to swap up the lane assignments a bit. They've now got Levitate getting solo XP up on that top side. He's able to get a couple waves in, take this back. He should have the Blade of the Rune King completed to get towards that first item. So as we take a look at the gold that is dead even, you're going to see why clearly Levitate sports probably the biggest gold lead, I would say, on the map compared to anybody. Maybe Verdict over Draxer by this point is also pretty lopsided.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like the big, thing for Levitate is, like you said, Yunara very capable of carrying a game once they get 3 items, but they have to be able to buy some of that space. Now, Bimini has no space.
He's got the tech. I mean, that was all potato. He flashes for the knockup, he lands the hook, and then he pops the silence so that Bimini couldn't even think about flashing out. And it's Verdict that's able to pick up that kill. And now with those grubs, take more plates. The gold is just stacking by the pound right now for DME.
And it's so easy to get. I feel like a lot of people forget how good at sieging and turret taking Shyvana actually is. When you have that Q and it's constantly coming off of cooldown because you're using your other spells and using your auto attacks to lower its CD, it's very, very easy to take a bunch of those plates. So they index into that mid lane, they get the kill, they take 2. But Whole Milk on the other side are actually able to respond in kind. They have that bot lane turret down to 1 plate, so they are fueling and funneling their gold into Levitate. It's just a matter of, will it actually pay dividends? And I feel like we're going to find out sooner rather than later, as a dragon is going to be coming up in about 10 seconds.
So top laners, they're playing Ultimate Chicken here. Jack's ult can come out from Manui, but Tommy doesn't want to commit to public execution, knowing it's so hard for Rage to hit. He's also kind of baiting here for Verdict, who is hovering towards this top side. He's going to make his way back down towards that dragon. This time he's going to re-engage here. He's keeping Manui very, very low. I'd be surprised if he throws out that ult as a Hail Mary, because if it connects, he should have himself a solo kill.
You can see the pings are coming there for Deathmark. Verdict crossed over, and there was no vision on the Shyvana. The waves didn't crash, so he's now here. Teleport is coming through from Zephyros. He has that ultimate available.
Oh, hook into arrow into Hero's entrance. What a combo! Does the dragon go over? No. Draxler is able to pick that one up, but now they got to fight
isolated,
3 versus 4 as Verdict trying to use that dragon's descent to pop out all the damage. But watch Levitate. He has Trent sent off to the side, but he just can't get close enough to the threat of that hook. The potato sinks in once again to Mini, sending the Shyvana on a killing spree at top side. Oh my god, Tommy, that was way too easy. What?
Yeah, Tommy just putting the style points onto Manui on the top side, throwing another curveball onto Whole Milk's part of the map. They get the dragon. They get some points back in this game, but they lose 2 in response. The big thing is, for the time being, they deny that feats of strength going over to Deathmark Napoléon, but it almost feels like a foregone conclusion because now Whole Milk really have to just climb a mountain. They have to get 2 more objectives and a turret, and so far, those 2 more objectives, with how difficult it has been for them to actually set up around these rivers and on these neutrals, it feels really difficult to imagine they're actually going to be able to get it, Slayer.
What a showing here from Deathmark Esports. And I want to take this moment while, you know what, actually, I don't want to jinx anybody. I don't want to cast for anybody. So I want to save that speech a bit later if this game continues to pan out. Because there still is very clear avenues for Whole Milk. Yeah, right? And they just need to try and find a way to set Levitate up to really pop in these fights. And the one thing that all this skirmishing,
oh my god, he's gonna do it again.
Potato hijinks. Oh my, it's just so beautifully constructed. It's the knockout, the hook into the taunt. Like 5 minutes, you can just take your hands off your keyboard by the time you end up getting hooked. There's no way for you to live.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Cryogen. He's like trying to defend the turret, but he's got no one around him. So it doesn't matter that you denied the dragon. It doesn't matter that feat didn't come through for Deathmark Napoléon. They find another angle. They find another way, and they are going to unlock those. Though nobody on Deathmark actually has the upgraded boots, so it's not going to really show. The only one that does is Pew Pew with the attack speed boots. Still, though, Deathmark are constantly finding ways to circumvent the plays Whole Milk are trying to make his Pew Pew maybe in a bit of trouble, but so is Manui.
Oh, the taunt into the palm execution. I asked for it. How are you going to set up that Ness ultimate? And man, Zephyron has answered my question in droves. Draxler's going to try and chase down Pew Pew, but a nice hook comes across the Potato to get the Wukong off of his AD carry, and that should allow Pew Pew to stay pretty safe here. But the bailout was already used on a Draxler. Now the Ash Souls are starting to stack. Hostile takeover is just too late. Pew Pew gets the kill.
It's a disaster for Whole Milk as they're going to try and salvage something. But Admiral Potato, he might just hook you into the turret. You can't keep walking forward.
Pew Pew, he's also, these volleys are restarting. He's going to hook flash forward. He gets a 2 for 1 special on his hook.
And look at the top side. They're taking turrets. They're going to keep sieging. They took 2 turrets on the top side, Slayer. And there's a Herald spawning. It's just more standing gold on the map.
Happening?
And all of it belongs to Deathmark Napoléon.
Oh my god, they've warped the map. The map is all theirs to take, and I mean, we talked about the Shyvana too from Verdict is not disappointing, but the thing I want to focus on now is you can see he's up 2.5k gold over Draxler right now. Is talking to the jungler Quacks. Are there champions that snowball harder than a Shyvana with a lead?
Yo,
I mean, that's the one thing, right?
I gotta think about that. Like, honestly, I feel like, I mean, Karthus is an obvious answer, but when was the last time you saw Karthus in the jungle, right? It's rough out here for Deathmark, and I feel like the big thing that just is now going to accelerate the Shyvana forward are those dragons, right? I mean, you're 3-13 in kills, you're up a ton of gold. At this point, Whole Milk, if they can't fight for these objectives, that scaling is just going to get worse. Shyvana is one of the only champions where you can do absolutely nothing. You could try and wait for time to scale, but they're just going to scale harder simply because they're getting these neutrals. So falling behind at this point in the game is a damning conclusion that Whole Milk have come to, where they have to force something quickly to try and get back in this game.
Manui, he can't even get the Counter-Strike stun onto Potato, and now I think he should just get hooked in. Potato doesn't want to hook this Jax towards his AD carry, though. Draxler going to join the party as well. 5 mini, going to make sure they have control over that river, so I like the patience we're seeing from Deathmark Napoléon, but they need to know they are much stronger, and Potato's going to try and lead the charge forward. The Azure going to hit the field goal as the Cyclone does come out. Pew Pew's going to immediately flash away from Public Studios, not going to hit anybody. Hostile takeover is coming over, and it's going to make sure Verdict turns onto his own AD carry. First shutdown's going to come across. Draxler and Manui have to bail out of this fight. We have a very low health Tommy, but Verdict's trying to hunt with this Dragon's Descent form to pick up some of these kills. Good flash away from the Counter-Strike. Should be able to find the kill onto Manui. We're going to try and use Zephyron to get closer here towards 5 minutes as he lands the Justice Punch. Good look for the taunt here as Draxler will not be able to pick up the kill onto the Ambessa. The Eclipse Shields come through in droves, and now Zephyron is going back forward, flashing for the double taunt. The Levitate immediately has to cleanse, but Pew Pew does get slowed up, and now Levitate wants to go forward, finds that first shutdown. Can't back for a second. Zephyron again with the Justice Punch finds himself 2 more kills on this Galio, and he's hunted for a third. He's hungry not just for seconds, not just for thirds, but the whole kit and caboodle as DME are going to ace Whole Milk off of the map. There it is, Zephyron unstoppable.
The winds of war take a little bit to land, but they are howling in Deathmark Napoleon's favor as the team marches forward with their gold lead now. Dragon secured as well. It's another notch in Verdict's belt. The dragon is roaring, and Deathmark Napoleon, they can taste the playoffs coming, Slayer.
up about 6,500 gold. You can see how much value the items are really bringing in this matchup. I mean, look at Verdict by this point.
Yeah, he has 10 stacks on Dark Seal.
Yeah, 10 stacks on Dark Seal. Are we going to get, I mean, why not? I hope.
Yo,
I hope
go Magi, go Magi, please. Oh my God, it would make my day. Go book, go book.
I don't, maybe later, but I don't think Verdict is going to pick that one up. That would be something. Quacks, though, talk to me about where we need to go next if we are Deathmark Napoléon to push this lead a bit further. Otacon in about a minute, is that where you're looking at?
Yeah, Otacon in a minute, probably. I think if you can actually manage to, you know, take down Manui here, you eliminate the threat of that split-pushing Jax. Oh boy, looking rough.
Manui had
we're
to
teleporting?
Go back out.
Oh God, we're teleporting.
They're TPing in. Manui gets a pretty good stun here on the Sephiroth, but yeah, you're TPing into 3, and the hero's pinch is going to make sure the 5-minute can't even move. Sure, Potato should die here over towards Draxer. That's a trade you're willing to take here. The big thing is the Pew Pew. Oh, he gets slowed up and flashed on. Pew Pew out of position. Good catch for Levitate. And now we're into a 3 versus 3, but Verdict runs out of that Shyvana ultimate form. And Draxler feels more confident. They don't have Levitate Transcended either, though, so a lot of these ultimates being off the board is going to kind of slow the roll of this play. The only ult available was going to be, yeah, that hostile takeover from Cryogen, so everybody's going to walk out with a 2-2 split.
I mean, all things considered, it's not like the worst, I would say, trade here for the side of Whole Milk. You get a 2 for 2, and when you're this behind in gold, I feel like you have to be taking those advantages, right? At this point, an even trade is a worth it trade for Esports Whole Milk, because it might turn in their favor. Levitate, can they see him? I don't think they can see him. So he's just gonna back without a care in the world, not knowing that there were literally enemies around the corner ready to take him down if he actually decided to stay for this wave. As now Tommy is going to be pushing in that top side, has teleports available, so should be able to answer any aggression Whole Milk has around this Otacon. Again, this really could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, Slayer. If Deathmark Napoléon can manage to secure this, can really get that XP, I think it's going to be very damning for Whole Milk's chances actually coming back in this series, especially because Shyvana scales better with levels than most other junglers.
Boy, here we go, though. The Otacon frenzy play here is just completely countered. Draxler eats an Astro
Draxler's gone, Jungler's gone.
Down. And look at Verdict, he's cut off the escape path. There's only one way out, Whole Milk, and that's for you to be spoiled, rotten into the fountain. The hostile takeover gonna get at least 1 kill back, but Deathmark Napoléon are sniffing ACL playoffs as they ace down Whole Milk once again.
You remember that TikTok meme that was trendy a couple of years ago, Slayer, where they were saying there's nothing we can do with Napoleon's face kind of on the card? And I feel like that's what Whole Milk got to be saying, as DME are dominating here in game number 2. We were looking forward to the comeback. We were looking forward to Whole Milk being whole in this series, ready to prove the naysayers wrong. But the naysayers are eating good in this series, as Otacon will be claimed. All the objectives except for that lone Infernal have been claimed by them. And it feels like that train will keep on chewing, as Drake will be up in about a minute, Slayer.
I'm just looking for Verdict to reset and buy a book.
Do it, man. Come on. You're 10-4. What are you afraid of? We want the book.
I mean,
we want the book.
Verdict hasn't been afraid of anybody this entire series. You can see, oh my God, that is a 5K gold lead in the jungle.
Yep.
Basically.
He makes me want to play Shyvana. I haven't played Shyvana in like 2 years.
Oh, you're inspiring the casters, Verdict. I don't think you understand how much power you truly have right now. And look at this. He's just like you, full clear demon.
Yeah, he has almost, I mean, he literally has the most CS on his team. I was about to say in the game, but that award actually goes to Levitate. But
yep.
I mean, the big thing is that Levitate just hasn't been able to do anything with the gold that he's generated on this Yunara. He's getting closer and closer to those 3 items. You can see he has that last Whisper, so he's getting super duper close. I believe probably to an LDR. There's not a lot of healing on DME, so I don't think you're going to be going for a Mortal Reminder. But no. I mean, how much of a difference would that realistically make? Your front line isn't able to protect you. Deathmark Napoléon are just able to pick you apart. What is the solution here for Whole Milk? They've got to look for some type of a desperation play, but team fighting is not the solution.
All right, he's gonna eat the Ash Arrow. He gets hooked back in. The Shockwave is gonna
Okay.
land on a 2. That's a great hostile takeover layer through. Potato's gonna go down first, but the Hero's Entrance buys time for Pew Pew, who's able to fire out some of these shots, but they need to find some of these kills. Pew Pew stepping up into forward.
Tommy, they got Levitate!
Tommy gets on to Levitate. The big bad Eudora falls down, and that means the rest of Whole Milk don't have a shot in the world, and Tommy is gonna pick up the quadra kill, and DME are gonna march down mid lane at 24 minutes, looking to sweep out Milk Esports.
And it was Whole Milk that wanted the dragon, but the dragon comes right for them. Instead, 10-0, and a verdict has found them guilty. Esports Whole Milk, they have been spoiled rotten, Slayer. And DME will lock playoffs in the ACL.
Deathmark Napoléon won't just lock playoffs, they are locked in to a 9-12 seed. Again, I want to talk about and congratulate them, because when you look back at where these teams were seeded, DME were a playoff hopeful at maybe that 13th or 16th seed.
Yeah.
Now they've got themselves in a much better prime position, and wow, this is why we watch the ACL, folks. Congratulations, Deathmark Napoléon.
And not only where we expected them to be in the ACL, but just look at where they started, right? Going all the way back to those open qualifiers, this was a team that kind of blended in as, you know, a squad that has a lot of impressive players on the solo queue ladder, but realistically, when faced with competition that is experienced in the tier 3, possibly even tier 2, you know, pedigree, they aren't really able to compare. And look at what they just accomplished. They just took down a team with 4 former NACL players on that Whole Milk squad. A massive jump in where they started at the beginning of the year in spring to where they are now. And not only that, they looked solid while doing it, Slayer. This is a team where if they managed to eke out a series win, we would be surprised. But a dominating 2-0 to the degree that they showed us here tonight, unexpected, unheard of, but not unwelcome. I love an underdog story. And I know everyone who's an ACL enjoyer, just an esports enjoyer in general, loves it too.
Not a doubt, yeah. Yeah, what I wanted to say during that game that I didn't want to jinx them with is that the most fun part about the ACL and really just, well, I can say tier 2 now, right? With the ACL earning that honor. And the ACL in particular is that I think when you look at the current slate of some of these NACL players, some of the Challengers League qualifier threatening teams, it's fun to look back on. The one that I always relate to, right, is like Samikin's story. We all say Low Jazz that, you know, finally made it up to tier 2 as well. It's like seeing them in those leagues where they're like knocking down some gatekeeper players when it comes to like tier 3, tier 2, and that's where they start. That's the beauty of the ACL is now I don't want to put like this big pressure on Deathmark Napoléon. They still, you know, have playoffs now to play for. There's a lot more growth this team could do, but to see the early days of players that could potentially go on to be big names and do huge things, that's the best part about the ACL, and that's what, you know, maybe a taste that we got here watching Deathmark Esports take down Whole Milk.
Absolutely. I mean, Whole Milk have kind of been on under a microscope a little bit for a lot of people that have looked at the ACL from a more holistic standpoint. The expectations for this team were like, you know, go into like the top 10 at the very least, right? Like this is a team with 4 former pros, and a lot of people kind of looked past the fact that Drexer, who is a very, like we said, loquacious player, is very outspoken, is also a player that has a lot of leadership under his belt. This should be a team that's able to come together, but it almost feels like you're putting those, you know, those magnets that you would play with as a kid, Slayer, where you would like try to put them together, but the ends just wouldn't click. They would like constantly slide past one another. That kind of feels like what's happening with this Whole Milk squad. That just isn't clicking in these team fights. It feels like they're scatterbrained. In the laning phase, it feels like they over-aggress. Like on that dive, that was absolutely ridiculous. There were so many plays where you just feel like they have an advantage, but they sometimes push it too far. And I really want to see them reel in that just a little bit, because I feel like if they do, they should be able to make playoffs. But now they're going to be facing a do or die situation tomorrow Slayer against Galaxy Gaming. And you're not going to want to miss that, as that will be a tell of who makes it into playoffs and who doesn't. Two teams that were expected to be in that top 16, one will not be there.
That is such a fun prospect and a scary one for both Galaxy and Whole Milk. That, like you mentioned, will be tomorrow. Is, if I'm reading our awesome bracket correctly, by tomorrow we will have our 16 playoff teams figured out here in the ACL.
Yup. Playoffs are around the corner, my man. Yep.
Yeah, and where you can check out the playoffs and also the penultimate match before the play. I guess we are the penultimate match for the playoffs. The final match before the playoffs will be back here on the Salt Mine, as we are going to be closing out our coverage in expedited fashion. Big shout out to Hummus that overcame OBS being silly at halfway through the series as our producer here, and it was an absolute pleasure to get back on the mic here with Quacks and most importantly have some laughs.
We got to do it more often, man. I mean,
we will.
Yeah.
We will. We won't tomorrow, though. Quacks will be joined by Yanni, as the real life world, it does come a calling for me. So make sure to come back to the Salt Mine tomorrow to see maybe not Whole Milk versus Galaxy. We still have to pick the game, but it will be a series where one team goes to playoffs and the other one is out of the Aegis Champions League summer split. Hope to see you there tomorrow. Until then, take care.